Hello, my name is Mrs. Pound. Welcome to Purposeful Designs Physical Science. This is Chapter 1.1 Composition of Matter. And if you are one of my students, you should have your note packet out and be following along and taking notes. Remember, the left side margin, all of that space there, is for you to write five questions. At the end about the notes. You are to think of what I might ask on the test. I'm giving you these notes for a reason. I'm giving you them because you're going to be tested on them. So your job is to write 5 questions and then study those questions. You're going to remember the material better if you study those questions every night as opposed to just cramming the night before the test. So please take a look at those every day, and it won't take much time. If you look at those for a few minutes every day, you will know that material by the test and answer your questions. If you are not one of my students, maybe you're a homeschooler or you're a teacher who found these videos and decided to use them, my notes are available in Teachers Pay Teachers. Okay, so the first section of physical science is section 1.1, the study of physical science. And the objectives we will be covering are describing the 2 broad fields of physical science, identifying the benefits and drawbacks of scientific pursuits, and being able to describe a Christian worldview of science and technology. So let's talk about what is physical science. What am I studying this year? Why do I have to study this? This is what this section is about. Why do we have to study this? This is the study of non-living things that make up the world. Perhaps you were in my life science class last year, and last year we studied living things. This year we're going to study non-living things. And there are 2 branches that make up physical science. Those branches are chemistry. This is the study of how atoms, molecules, and chemicals interact with each other. This is what we're going to be studying for the first part of the year. So we're going to be talking about atoms and molecules and chemicals and all of their interactions and be doing experiments and all kinds of fun things. The second part of the course will be about physics. This will be the study of matter, energy, motion, and forces. And so that is what we will be studying this year. Basically 2 different sciences that make up physical science. So what are the benefits of scientific pursuits? Why do we study science? How will this benefit me? Well, some benefits of science, if we look around, actually, if you look around your room where you are, probably most of the things around you are the result of scientific pursuits. So some of the benefits are medicines. We have many medicines that cure many diseases. Who's taken an antibiotic? If you've taken an antibiotic, that is due to science. And we are living longer because we do have antibiotics. We have vaccines that have been developed by science. We have all of these things that help us to live longer. Another advantage is machinery. We have all kinds of machines around us. These are the result of science. The clothes that you wear were made in a factory with machines. So just the development of machinery is very important. Better foods. Foods that have longer shelf lives, that are even healthier for us. Foods that we can buy in the supermarket. Foods that there's a rice that they have genetically engineered so that it has more nutrients in it. So better foods. Fast transportation. We can get all kinds of places very quickly in our world today. We can travel from the United States to, say, Japan very quickly across the Pacific Ocean. With airplanes, we have bullet trains in some places that are very fast. Just all of that is the result of science. Rapid communication methods. Probably most of you have a cell phone. And if you don't have a cell phone, your parents probably have a cell phone. And that is the result of scientific investigations. Nuclear and solar power, which are relatively clean forms of energy, are the result of science. Now, we do have to be careful with nuclear power. There is waste, but it is, if it's managed properly, relatively clean. And space exploration, which is really exciting. I don't know if recently you watched the SpaceX launch, where the government is actually collaborating with the private sector to launch us into space and sending astronauts to the International Space Station. So all of those are due to science. Now, like anything, there are drawbacks of scientific pursuits. Now, as Christians, this is a Christian curriculum, as Christians, we talk about this all the time, that we live in a fallen world. And so there is evil in the world due to the fall. And so for really every good thing, there's also usually a bad thing. Science can be used for good. Science can be used for evil. And sometimes it's not necessarily somebody's trying to be evil. It's just that there are consequences that we didn't think about, perhaps, or just due to the fall, there are consequences to certain things that we do. And so we always have to talk about that in the Christian worldview. So some drawbacks of scientific pursuits are possible climate change. You hear about this in the news. There's a lot of debate in the Christian world about whether we're causing the climate change. It's natural, whether it really is happening or not. But I'll put it as possible climate change. Ozone depletion. The ozone protects us from UV radiation, and due to CFCs, there is a hole in the ozone layer that protects us from some of those rays from the sun. Chemical pollution and radioactive waste. We have to be careful how we take care of these things. Yes, they do many good things, but not all of them are good for the environment. There are some chemicals that when they're released into the environment, they're causing cancer in us, in other living things. They are also causing things to die, living things to die that we don't necessarily intend to happen. So we have to be careful of how we dispose of some of these things. And air pollution. We are releasing all kinds of things into the air from smokestacks and whatnot, and so many cities especially have a problem with smog, and that is unfortunately due to some of these technologies and actions due to science. So what I want you to think about and write about, that's why there's think and write at the bottom, is that technology provides both benefits and drawbacks. How should a Christian view science and technology? Can Christians have different views? Explain and use scripture to support your argument. So I would like you to write about this, and I'm calling it a think and write because there are lots of correct answers to this. Okay? This is not something you're going to just get right out of your book, so you can go to your book to maybe get some ideas, but this is not something that comes straight out of your book. This has a lot to do with your world view, how you view the world. And this is also a question that I would like you to perhaps discuss with your family. Say at the dinner table, have a discussion and say, what do you think about this? How should we view science and technology? What other views do people have around us? I know where we live, we have the Amish community, which has some very interesting views about science and technology, and they almost are living in a different century because they do not use all of the technology that perhaps we would use. And then do you have some scripture that would support your view? Because one thing we have to be very careful of as Christians is that whenever we have a viewpoint, we have to go back and say, is this scriptural? Because if it's not, then perhaps we have to change our view. So go ahead and think about that think and write. Also, do not forget to do your 5 questions in the margin. That's 5 questions in the margin so that I can check your notes tomorrow. If you do not have your 5 questions, then you will not get checked off on your notes. Have a good day. Bye.